We want to absorb what we're choosing to absorb. And then by surrounding yourself with an environment that is what you want to receive, you can then relax and unconsciously receive it. You don't have to work so hard. You just, for those of you who are trying to change any habit that you have, I've learned that it's much easier to change a habit I have if I change my environment to support the new habit I want to practice. So I don't have to remember, I don't have to remind myself. So for this law of absorption, I could have, if I thought about it, thought about something to remind me at other times than when I was driving around the great state of New Jersey. So, so you arrange your environment to support you in receiving what you're choosing to receive, or to support your habit that you want to add to your life. They recommend, many spiritual teachers recommend that you that you create a sacred place in your home, and that this sacred place that you're creating is an environment of every good thing you want to absorb, including the truth. And so it took me decades of hearing this, whatever. God is everywhere. I don't need to have a place. And I was a minister here, I will admit it, that I finally said, let me try this thing. And so I created a sacred place and consciously chose what to put on the table, what room it was in, what would be around it, consciously made those choices. And so now, whenever I'm anywhere near that place, I can absorb that. It reminds me, oh yeah, let's do some spiritual work. Oh yeah, let's read a spiritual book. It invites me. So it's a way of making life easier for yourself. Instead of having an environment that drags on you and makes you feel horrible, you create an environment that supports you the way you are. So say you can't remember your keys, and you're always losing your keys all over your house. Well, that was me years and years ago, and what did I do? I bought a key holder and put it next to the door and hang my keys there. What an idea. I come in the house, I hang the key. It doesn't go scattering everywhere. It's there, always, because that's its spot. I made it easier for me, who likes to wander around and drop things all over the place. Okay, so anyway, that's the law of absorption. Today we're learning the law of force, he calls it. It's the second plane of supply. And so this is not about, I wrote it in the notes. What does he say? It's not a matter of exercising the will or driving the flesh to get outer results. So that's not the definition of force that he's using. However, what he talks about is these planes or these modes of supply are operative everywhere, and we are always using them. So the law of absorption was the way plants receive their good. And they only receive their good through absorption. Animals receive their good through absorption, but also through force. And at that animal level of understanding, he says that this, materially considered, it belongs to the carnivorous animals who get their supply by forcefully taking it from others. In most cases, they prey upon the lesser beast themselves. So that's this law of force, or this mode of force, is another way we receive our supply. But as human beings, if we are to operate solely on that material level, operating at force, right? He writes, when this law of supply is employed by the human being, that person descends to the animal plane and becomes the thief, the robber, the grafter, the racketeer, the extortionist, the user. By force, cunning, deception, or advantage, this person preys upon those who have. This person is not intelligent enough to use their own skill and talents to produce for themselves, devotes all the energy to getting what others have produced. And so we can see that in ourselves, maybe, I want what you have, you've got that good, I want your good. And what he is saying, we can operate at that level, just like we can operate at that level of absorption and just absorb whatever's around us, being a victim of everything. But we can also then operate at this animal level and just take and think, I can only get my good by taking it from you. And maybe we're too civilized to actually take it from others, but we want to. And so jealousy and envy is an indicator that you want to take from someone else. If you wish you had what someone else had, that's a nice way of saying it, right? But it's really a clue that we're not operating at a higher level. So we can operate and use this law of force at that animal level, or we could use it at the mental level, where we try to figure out how to earn and work and get stuff done and get the good that we want. And that can occupy a whole lot of our human time, right? Trying to figure out, well, if I do this, I do this. I was talking with a friend on Friday. I saw this job opportunity become available, and I thought, wow, I'm perfectly qualified for this job. If I work at this job solid for 5 years, I'll be set up for retirement for life. I can do anything I want. The only problem is, I would absolutely hate the job. And I'm not completely confident that I would actually even be able to get it done, because I hate it so much. And also, I've already had that job, and I left it because I hated it. So that's mental level of trying to, use my effort, use my willpower, use my mind to get something. And what is it that I want to get? Right? More supply. So maybe I should listen to Ingraham here. He says, descending to a plane beneath the human status exacts its terrific toll. That's bad. For the law of compensation is exact. When we operate at that animal level, we lose our peace of mind, our sense of security, our liberty, and sometimes even our lives itself. And we lose our own self-respect because we know we're divine beings on some level. We know that there's something that is higher that is calling us, but we're not taking advantage of it. We're not operating it. So, he says, and I said this last week, humans being a replica of the universe, the image and likeness of God, we have something of every plane within us. And so the application of these laws must be according to our high estate, that spiritual truth of us. And so now the law of force is really very simple. He says human beings too easily surrender to the apparent, to the facts, right? To the obvious, to our mood. That's, I surrender to my mood all the time. I'm in a bad mood. Well, then I can't do anything. I'm not in the mood to run. Well, then I don't run, right? And he says a little positive assertion is often all that is necessary to turn the tide of events. And sometimes a more enduring persistence is necessary. But the tide must be turned if we are to rise into the realm of creative beings where we belong. In other words, this whole idea of abundance recognizes that we are creative beings and that we need, what we would say today, is some affirmations of truth, some reminders. positive thinking. It's so basic, right? If you're in this teaching, oh yeah, the power of positive thinking. Oh yeah, right? Let's just say something good. Don't say the negative. Da, da, da. Yeah, it's so easy, but it's necessary. We're already aware of receiving and through absorption what is around us, and then we need to add this activity of asserting the truth to ourselves. So for our 10 practitioners and equal in number and plus 5 of people who are in this teaching and who know, right, trained minds, we need to use the fact that our minds are trained. We need to use them daily. We need to use them all the time. We need to stand in our truth. We need to remind ourselves. And his spiritual practice is an affirmation. To say to yourself, God is my supply. So to that little self of me on Friday that was imagining taking on this job and struggling and toiling for 5 years, if I could get through it, which I have every bit of evidence that I wouldn't be able to, given that I've done it and I hate it and I quit. All that effort, instead of all of that twisting yourself to get something, assert the spiritual truth. God is my supply. And so whatever it is that I think I want, which is supply, God is the source of it. And so assertion, I would call it the law of assertion rather than the law of force. It is a bit of an effort to keep reminding yourself of spiritual truth, especially when you're not feeling it. He goes on to talk about it is exerting the will to the point of complete reliance upon God as not only the source but the supply itself. And faith is a much greater force than the will. But if you don't have the faith, you use the will. Will is only efficient when used to awaken or conform to faith. So we use the assertion or the affirming of spiritual truth to awaken our faith. And when we've got the faith, we're ready to absorb. We're ready to receive. We're open. But that work we sometimes have to do, right? When we doubt and you're looking at the bank account anytime I think about my future, let's face it, I go into, oh my gosh. And I have to say to myself, an affirmation, I have to say, that which has brought me this far will bring me the rest of the way. Yeah, right? What this divine that has taken such great care of me, really, with, in my opinion, given all that, quote, I should be doing, the little that I do, thank you, God. That something, given my innocence and my ignorance and my moods and my I don't wannas and my struggles and my fights and my, oh yeah, I gotta get back on the road or whatever. Or yeah, God, I'm taking care. I mean, all that I do, and I've done the gamut and still am. The very little effort I have done has taken care of me. Has taken care of me when I was an atheist, has taken care of me when I was surrounded by ugliness or evil, has taken care of me when, through my own bad choices, I've made a mess. Colossal mess, headline messes, been there. I've been taken care of. That which has brought me this far will certainly take me the rest of the way. And given that I'm even a little bit more cooperative, it will really do a better job of taking me the rest of the way. At least I'm a little bit more on its side. I'm a little more cooperating. But that's what spiritual practice does for us. And that spiritual practice of asserting truth until we have that faith is all that is necessary to experience supply in a greater way. And the only effort we have to do is until we've got the faith. That's very little. But it might require, right? He says it might be a little positive assertion. One of the things that seems to work for me is if I ever get scared, it's Halloween. So this morning, I was awake, sitting on my couch in the complete dark, doing my little spiritual work, and I was hearing these little noises around me. I have a cat. Where is the cat? Is the cat making these little noises around me? I hope. And I went there because a part of me knew my cat was upstairs. So then what's making the little noises all around me? And I could have turned on the light. I could have, I did yell, "Sophie, where are you?" But of course she's not answering. She's a cat. And so I asserted. First I said, "Don't go there," right? There is no boogeyman under the bed, right? Don't go there in your thinking, and know all is good around me. I forgot about it. Don't know what it was. Don't need to know. God is there, the all good. So sometimes just a little bit of assertion will work. So I had that this morning. But sometimes you need to have a more enduring persistence. He refers to the story in the Bible of Jacob wrestling with the angel. Sometimes we've got to really dig in our heels and demand to receive our blessing. And so while Jacob was wrestling with the angel, first of all, what is he wrestling with? He's wrestling with his higher self. But all his fears and his worries and that habit of thought and emotion and all of that negative stuff within him, that's what he was wrestling with. But he was saying to the angel, "I will not let you go until I receive my blessing." And that's what we do with this law of assertion. We claim spiritual truth and we say, "I am going to stand on this spiritual truth whether I believe it or not, whether I feel it or not, whether I agree with it or not, whether I understand it or not, whether it's showing up or not. I'm going to agree, I'm going to stand on it," which might be just, I'm going to keep saying it until I believe it. Sometimes we have to do that, right? Anybody in the audience ever have to do that? Right? They're all nodding their heads. Yeah. And still doing it, right? And you're like, how many years, decades do I still have to do it? Well, you have to do it until you get it. That's it. And so you don't have to do this. It's not a bad thing. You're not a bad person if you don't do it. You just have to wait longer to get your good. That's all. We're the only ones who suffer by not receiving our supply from God. And that's what he says, is that he tells us, dare to trust, dare to rely, dare. When everything is a mess, when people are screaming and running in the streets, and we just had that, screaming and running away from the streets, I guess is what we had, right? Past couple years, it's like, people, they might have something, right? The cooties fear, right? And to dare, despite all that and what everybody's saying, dare to demand your health supplied from God. Dare to demand it. It takes daring, right? So dare to trust, to rely, dare to have faith that God is your instant and manifest supply even when you cannot see it. And so, especially, Dr. Ernest Holmes, right, said, he who deserts the truth in their hour of need proves that he does not know the truth? Reverend Jackie, is that right? Reverend Jackie's here. It's her favorite passage. And it's in all bold, right? All caps. Because what is the teaching of the science of mind when everything in your life is wonderful? Science of mind, the guts of science of mind, isn't for really much for you, when you're in the flow. When you flow, you're in the flow. You're aware that all is well, everything is flowing. There's not, science of mind is like, yeah, okay, right, no, it's good, great, whatever. Science of mind its strength is really when you don't know it. When everything is a mess, it's a disaster. And then you're like, okay, now maybe I should do a treatment. Which brings us to using our practitioners, is daring. When you ask a practitioner to treat for you, you are daring to trust in God. And that practitioner is going to be able to know the truth for you with complete conviction because, basically it's not their issue, not their problem, right? Your issue is yours. They don't have it, so they're like, oh, sure, I'll know the truth. Whatever, no problem, right? We do that really well. And that's why we use practitioners when we've got a problem. All right, I need you to know for me because I'm in, hell. So the thing is that the science of mind teaching is about positive assertion. When we don't know the truth, when everything is a mess, when we've totally screwed up, when Job said, behold, the things I have feared have come upon me, that's when we need to assert the truth. And so he says, here's our homework for our week 2. So for the past 2 weeks, we practiced the law of absorption. And you'll do it more, right? Now that you're, oh yeah, that's right. Okay, and now we're going to do learn the law of assertion. Learn to reach out into the universe. Absorb all that it naturally radiates toward you. Okay, so that was week 1. Once the sense of its abundance awakens in you, a great hunger for more will also awaken. Then you will wrestle with the wealth that is there for you until it is visibly manifest in your mind, body, and affairs. The wealth of the universe is yours. Take it. The timid seldom arrive at great fulfillment. Right? How many of us were taught to be modest? Oh no, God, you're busy. If you've got some time, if you could work this little thing out here for me, I would be greatly appreciated. But if not, I understand because, I want to save all that you have, all the good that you have allotted for me, all the time that you've allotted to help me in my life. Let's save it for when I've got a really big problem, right? Have you ever thought like that? And right, the perfect answer for that is anyone who thinks that God is too busy to work for your problem does not understand what infinite means. Okay? So, the bold, know the thrill and realization of the abundance of God. And so, the law of force or the law of assertion is being bold. It's looking at what you've got, and you're like, there's no abundance here, but my abundance comes from God. My supply comes from God, and I'm going to stand here and know it until I see it. And I'm just going to assert it morning, noon, and night until I see it. This is boldness. This is an activity. It requires some energy, but not as much energy as, trying to, work for 5 years and with something that you hate in order to whatever. This is assuming, I'm still thinking about that job, right? Work for 5 years really hard, get all this extra money, get myself all set. It's assuming that I'll be able to survive it, and it's also assuming they won't fire me. Because with the kind of attitude I would have, they would. And rightly so, right? Okay, so to rely upon God. With God, all things are possible. In God, there is always a way. that which brought me this far will bring me the rest of the way. These kinds of truths we stand on. And so our homework for this week is, again, he says, first, absorb the beauty, the wealth, the abundance that is around us, and then fill up with it, and then begin asserting the greater good, the greater supply that you desire to experience. And so let's contemplate that right now while Reverend Rich regales us in another song. Regale away.
Is that what I'm doing here?
Yes, you're regaling. You're regaling.
I celebrate my abundance today by giving this gift. I show my faith as I open my heart. My world becomes a better place. I lose all fear as I share gratefully. The love that I give always gives back to me. Knowing my oneness with everything else, I know that all that I am, I give to myself. I celebrate my abundance today by giving this gift. I show my faith as I open my heart. My world becomes a better place. I release all fear as I share gratefully. The love that I give always gives back to me. Knowing my oneness with everything else, I know that all that I am, I give to myself.
Yes. So once again, to complete here, I'd like to read for all of us this meditation from Ingraham. And again, it's in the I first person, so just know that this is true for you. I arise and go on to my Father's house, where there is enough and to spare. I refuse to be drawn into the entangling illusion of appearances. I dare to risk my all to the sustaining power of God who created me. If I am a created being, the power that created me must be the source of all that I am and have. If source, it must be the life, the substance, and sustaining power of my whole being. My supply, then, is immediately at hand and instantly available to me. I wrestle with the unalterable fact that God is my supply until I see it, feel it, and know it. Nothing matters to me now but the comprehension, the knowing of this fact. I apply myself to it day by day. I pursue it in all that I say, think, and do. Awake or asleep, my whole being constantly and intently pursues the truth until I possess it in the secret depths of my own soul. When I sufficiently know this fact in my own soul, then I shall equally know its manifestation in my outer affairs. God is my supply. The spirit and substance of abundance fills me and surrounds me. It feeds my flesh, revives my mind, restores my soul. It fires me with renewed power and creative ability, and I am aroused in the might and power of the inner spirit. Wealth of heaven and earth is mine, and I am rich in the priceless knowledge that all that the Father hath is mine. And so it is. Reverend Rich.
All the time, yes.
So it is. All right, everybody. So good morning, Arlene, Joe, hello, Selena, good to see you. And Catherine's here, Michael. All right, I think I've got you all. All right, so we're done, over and out. See you next week. Have a great, abundant week.